Today, we're jumping into the fascinating and often hidden world of diplomacy. You know, it's that powerful force in international relations that really shapes our world, not with weapons, but with words and strategy. So let's dive right in.
It's maybe the biggest question in all of geopolitics, right? How do countries actually protect their interests, get what they want, and settle huge arguments without having to go to war? Well, the answer is diplomacy. And today we're going to crack open the diplomat's toolkit and see exactly how it's done.
So first things first, what are we even talking about here? It's best to think of diplomacy not as some vague, lofty idea, but as a really practical set of tools. These are the tools that countries use to talk, to persuade, and just to manage their relationships on the world stage.
Okay, let's get a formal definition on the table. The words that really jump out here are influencing, dialogue, and especially short of war. It's all about reaching your goals, using skilled communication and smart engagement. It is basically the #1 alternative to using force.
The political scientist Hans Morgenthau, well, he boiled it down even further, and this just nails it, doesn't it? Every single diplomatic move is ultimately about pushing a nation's interests forward, but, and this is the whole point, doing it peacefully.
All right, so if diplomacy is a toolkit, what's the most important tool? I mean, what's the hammer or the screwdriver of the whole set? It's got to be negotiation. It is the absolute core of what diplomats do, where words are carefully used to build deals and hopefully stop crises before they start.
So, how does it actually play out? Well, these high-stakes international talks aren't just one long meeting. It's a whole process. It kicks off with pre-negotiations, which is literally just agreeing on what you're going to talk about. Then you move to the formula stage, where you sketch out the big picture of an agreement, and then you get to the details. And that's where the real tough work begins.
And this right here, this is where so many deals just fall apart. Getting to that formula stage can feel like this huge win. You know, everyone's optimistic. But hammering out the details, that's the moment of truth. All of a sudden, you have to define fuzzy terms, set exact timelines for things like troop movements, and navigate all this deep-seated suspicion. It's tough.
Now, for any of this to even be possible, you need a safe and predictable environment. You can't negotiate if you're worried about being arrested, right? That's where the formal rules of engagement come in, all the protocols and protections that create the framework for how diplomats do their jobs.
Protocol sets up a really clear hierarchy. There's a very specific pecking order, from the top dog ambassador all the way down to the secretaries. And you might see a title like Chargé d'Affaires. That's just the person in charge when the ambassador isn't around. This isn't just for show. It makes sure everyone knows who's who and what their level of authority is, which helps keep things running smoothly.
And this whole system is really about a crucial balance. On one hand, you have diplomatic immunity. This is huge. It protects diplomats from local laws so they can do their job without pressure or fear. But on the other hand, you have diplomatic protocol, this really strict code of conduct they have to follow. So it's this interesting trade-off, incredible freedom, but with the expectation of absolute professionalism.
So where does all this happen? Well, the front line of diplomacy isn't some battlefield. It's the diplomatic mission. We're talking about the embassy, or the consulate, which is basically a country's official home base in a foreign land.
And look, these principles we're talking about, they aren't just abstract ideas somebody made up. Our source material actually comes from course materials at Nigeria's Ahmadu Bello University, which just goes to show you diplomacy is a formal academic craft that is studied, taught, and perfected over time.
And the job of a mission, wow, they do a lot. According to the Vienna Convention, which sets all the rules, their job is to represent their home country, protect their own citizens living abroad, negotiate with the host government, basically act as expert observers, and, this one's key, build friendly relations. They are truly the eyes, ears, and voice of their nation.
Okay, so missions handle that one-on-one, country-to-country stuff. But what about the really huge global challenges? Things like climate change or pandemics? For those, you need pretty much every country at the table. And that brings us to the world of multilateral diplomacy.
On this global stage, you've basically got two main types of players shaping the conversation. First, you have IGOs, or intergovernmental organizations. Think of the UN. These are made up of states, and the people there are official government representatives. Then you have NGOs, non-governmental organizations, like Amnesty International. These are private groups made up of individuals, and they often act as watchdogs or advocates, putting pressure on governments.
So, we've gone through these timeless tools of diplomacy: negotiation, protocol, missions. But that brings us to a really critical question for the world we live in right now. In an age of instant tweets and endless video calls, does that slow, careful, and very human art of face-to-face diplomacy still hold the key to peace? It's something to think about.